We will present 5 main contents in this presentation, which are background and nature, economic outlook of industry, business model, company performance and industry comparison analysis, summary and recommendation. The industry of telecommunication consists of companies that provide transmission services of variety data in words, voice or audio, graphics, or video across the globe. This sector can be divided into 3 basic subsectors, which includes telecom equipment, telecom services, and wireless communication. We selected 3 companies from the telecommunication industry, which are Digi, Maxis, and Axiata. Digi, Com Berhad. Digi is a part of Telenor Group. The company is mainly engaged in mobile and wireless internet services, and it generates revenue through 3 main business units, which are mobile voice, internet, and digital services. Digi is mainly focusing on its prepaid, postpaid and device sales services, as well as focused on long-term growth and value creation which delivered through a well-defined strategy. Next, Maxis Berhad. Maxis is Malaysia's leading converged solutions company. It mainly focused on mobile, wireless, fixed and enterprise services. Maxis also provides a variety of high-quality digital services encompassing voice, data, and solutions. Maxis generates majority revenue through mobile and wireless services. Finally, Axiata Group Berhad. Axiata primarily provides mobile and infrastructure services. Axiata is now mainly operating in 4 main geographic areas, including Malaysia, Indonesia, Sri Lanka and Bangladesh. The company primarily generates mobile revenue from 5 mobile operators: Celcom in Malaysia, XL in Indonesia, Dialog in Sri Lanka, Robi in Bangladesh, and Smart in Cambodia. Based on the statistic, the telecommunication industry has been growing steadily with an increased revenue every year. Due to the growth of the industry, the demand for telecommunication services is increasing. However, the new formation of the telecommunication company will be increased. Hence, competition in the telecommunication industry is getting more intense. This situation causes the telecommunication industry to have a higher market share and becoming more important. Finally, it helps to boost the economics of the industry. The current ratio of Digi is below 1.0 from 2016 to 2019. This indicates that Digi don't have a stable current assets to pay off its current obligations. Its account receivable turnover shows a better result in 2019 as Digi collects its receivable more often than in previous years. The inventory turnover of Digi dropped in 2019. This shows that Digi's sales are poor, or it is experiencing poor inventory management. Its operating cash flow ratio also declined to below 1.0 in 2018 and 2019. This depicts that Digi generated lesser cash to meet its current liability. The interest coverage ratio of Digi is 0 in 2019. This shows that Digi has no interest expenses or any long-term debt in 2019. While the debt service coverage ratio of the company is favorable over the years, and Digi is able to cover its debt payment with operating income. For efficiency ratio, the asset turnover ratio of Digi is constant for the past 5 years, in which it stays above 1.0 from 2015 to 2018. Though it dropped to 0.77 in 2019, it shows that Digi managed its assets efficiently to generate revenue. In terms of profitability, the net profit margin of Digi is above 20% from 2015 to 2019, which indicates that Digi earns more than 20 cents in net profit for every sales it made. While its return on equity has dropped over the years, and it depicts that Digi is investing in unproductive assets. Digi's PE ratio stays within the range of 17 to 24 over the years. This reflects that Digi did not grow for the past 5 years, and its level of earnings remains constant. Digi's market-to-book ratio is above 50 for the past 5 years, and this indicates that its shares are overvalued.
Next, is Maxi's company ratio analysis. There are 5 main ratios. Profitability ratio. The net profit margin of all 5 years were not more than 0.5. This is not a good phenomenon because for 2019, Maxi's only can generate 16 cents of net income for each dollar of sales. The return on assets of Maxi's has fluctuated over the past 5 years. However, none of them are more than 0.2. In evidence, Maxi's did not fully use all of its assets to generate revenue. The return on equity of Maxi's for the past 5 years are lower than 0.5. This is also considered as a bad result. The ability of Maxi's to generate income from the equity available to it is low. Liquidity ratios. The current ratio for all the years are less than 1.00. This is not a good financial position for a firm, which means that Maxi's cannot meet its short-term obligations and would have problems covering its monthly bill. The average collection period is increased to 47 days during 2019. This means that Maxi's needs a longer period to collect its bill from customers. Maxi's achieved the highest account receivable turnover ratio in 2018, which is 15.47 compared to previous year. This means that the collection of accounts receivable is effective this year. The inventory turnover ratio of Maxi's showed a massive increase to 11.61 in 2019. This shows that the sales of its goods and demand on its product became higher. The lowest of the operating cash flow ratio was 0.60 in 2019. This means that Maxi's only can generate 60 cents of cash to pay $1 of obligations within the same period. Debt ratios for all of the 5 years were lower than 1.0, while debt-to-equity ratios for all 5 years were more than 1. His showed that the assets of Maxi's may have been funded by equity. Maxi's had a high ability to pay the interest on outstanding debt in 2015 and 2016. However, the ratio dropped significantly in the following year. The company may default on its loan payment. Efficiency ratios. The assets turnover ratio of Maxi's for the last 5 years were all not more than 0.5. A low ratio indicates that Maxi's did not use its assets efficiently in the past 5 years. Market value ratios. The price-earnings ratios demand from investors to Maxi's shares in 2015 is higher than 2017. However, the demand from investors started to increase as the ratio increased in 2018 and 2019.
Company analysis of Axiata. There are 5 ratio analysis: liquidity ratio, leverage financial ratio, efficiency ratio, profitability ratio and market ratio. Liquidity ratio. First is current ratio. In 2019, Axiata's current ratio is only 0.39, that it may have problems on paying short-term debts or borrowings. Second is account receivable ratio. For 2019, it was increased to 5.21 times, which means Axiata was more efficient in collecting its credit accounts than previous years. Third is inventory turnover. The figure for 2019 is 137 times. High inventory turnover shows Axiata always keep its inventory at low levels to prevent products unmarketable. Leverage financial ratio. Debt ratio. Axiata always controlled its debt ratios under 0.31 and did not borrow too much money to finance its assets and had a healthy financial portfolio. Interest coverage ratio. The interest expenses were increasing significantly from 831 million to 1.7 billion in 5 years. Thus, Axiata should be aware of its total debts and interest expenses. Efficiency ratio. Asset turnover ratio. Every single ringgit invested only able to generate 0.37 cent sales. Axiata did not manage its assets efficiently to increase its sales yearly. Profitability ratio. Net profit margin. Axiata should upgrade its profitability on its products and services, meanwhile with a better control on its overall expenses to increase its profit margin. ROE in 2019, with every single ringgit invested, there were only 8 cents of net income were produced. Market value ratio. PE ratio. Over the past 5 years, Axiata PE ratio was more than 20, except for 2018, which its EPS is negative. P/B ratio. Axiata has high expectations from investors in the market, and investors have high confidence and expectations on Axiata's future earnings and performance.
Now we are going to talk about business model. A business model is how a company's strategy and operating approaches will create value for the customer, while at the same time generate ample revenues to cover costs and realize a profit. We are talking about three different company business models, which are Digi, Maxis, and Axiata. So let's talk about Digi first. Digi's purpose is connecting you to what matters most. It focuses on providing connectivity to Malaysians across the country in a safe, reliable, and efficient manner, which is exactly what customers expect from Digi. Digi has three strategies in achieving their purpose. The first is delivering growth through relevant customer offerings that drive the continued demand for connectivity and digital service. The second is the way it runs its network, engage customers across touchpoints, and instill a culture of innovation and agility. While the third is raising the standard for responsible business through managing its value chain, processing its customer data, environmental impact, and promoting safe internet usage and digital inclusion. For Maxis Berhad, its purpose is always be ahead. Maxis want to be the leading converged solutions company in Malaysia. To achieve this purpose, it comes up with three strategies. The first is Maxis for All. It focuses on strengthening its leadership in its core business and become a leader in consumer solutions. The second strategy is to achieve UPE, which is differentiated and digital unmatched personalized experience. It expands its customer touchpoints through unmatched digital personalized experience, channel reach, capability, and productivity. The last strategy is Maxis Way, which is to become world-class effective and efficient organization. It strengthens its culture, talent, and capabilities by recruiting right talent, build right capabilities, and strengthen the working culture. For Axiata, it aims to become the new generation digital champion by 2022. To achieve this, it launched a strategy named Triple Core Strategy. This triple core strategy consists of digital telco, digital business, and infrastructure. For digital telco, it evolves from mobile-centric telco to converged digital operators. While for digital business, it transforms from portfolio company to a three lines of digital business. Last is the infrastructure. It advanced from a regional champion to a global champion.
Among the three companies, Axiata has the lowest current and asset test ratio compared to Digi and Maxis in 2019. This shows that Axiata has the most difficulty to pay off its short-term obligations. As for the operating cash flow ratios, Axiata still has the lowest value compared to the other two companies. This indicates that Axiata has the most trouble in paying off its current liabilities with the cash flow generated from its operating activities. Overall, all three companies' liquidity ratios are not satisfying because all of them are below 1.0.
Leverage financial ratio analysis for Digi, Maxis, and Axiata. Debt ratio is one of the vital ratios to evaluate the debt's level of companies. Among the three companies, Axiata's debt ratio in 2019 was 0.25, means that Axiata had a lower debt level when comparing it with Digi 0.92. And Maxis 0.67. Interest coverage ratio is used to assess whether a company's operating cash inflow is able to reimburse its interest expenses at the particular time. In 2019, Digi had no interest expenses at the fiscal year. When Maxis's was 6.18 and Axiata's was 2.49, Maxis did better control its debts and interest expenses and cash generated from operating activities able to pay off its interest expenses in the year.
For efficiency ratio, it is shown that among the three companies, Digi has the highest asset turnover ratios in 2019 at 0.77 compared to Maxis's 0.43 and Axiata's 0.37. While for the fixed asset turnover ratio, it is shown that Digi is at the value of 2.21 in 2019, Maxis at 1.56, and Axiata at 0.96. Based on the two efficiency ratios, it shows that Digi is the most efficient in utilizing its assets to generate revenue compared to Maxis and Axiata, while Axiata does not utilize its assets as efficient as the other two companies to produce sales.
Next is profitability ratio. The net profit margin of Axiata is the lowest among the three companies. This shows that the ability of Axiata to control its expenses is lower than Maxis and Digi. The return on assets of Digi is 0.26, which is higher than Maxis and Axiata. But this result is still considered low as it is smaller than 1. The rate of return earned on the stockholders' equity investment in Digi is 2.17, which is higher than Axiata and Maxis. This can attract the eyes of the shareholders.
For market value analysis ratio, Maxis had the highest price-earnings ratio, 26.6, followed by Axiata 25.88 and Digi 23.47. Market investors place higher dollar value on Maxis's earnings than other competitors and believe that Maxis's earnings will grow in the following years. For market-to-book ratio, Axiata had the lowest ratio, 2.26, Maxis's was 5.91 and Digi's was the highest, 55.75. We see that investors have high expectations in the telecommunication and media industry, especially to Digi.
As a conclusion, telecommunication industry is showing a positive ratio analysis. It has high capital structure, asset efficiency, profitability, and market value. Although the liquidity is low, it is undeniable that the industry is growing as the total asset of the industry is increasing every year. There are a few recommendations for the telecommunication industry. First is to ensure that the company is always on track with the latest technology. Company should invest money in research and development in acquiring the latest technology. Besides, companies should improve their service quality to satisfy needs of the consumers. For example, they should widen the coverage and increase the service stability. Last but not least, companies should avoid cut-short competition and promote only healthy competition. This to maximize the sake of the industry.